Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the cards that I picked up this month. So I thought we'd change it up a little bit, and since the market is so crazy and it's just practically impossible to get any sealed product, and even singles like illustration rares are simply blasting off, as you've seen probably all over YouTube. The Drowsy is going crazy, over 1600% growth I think, and so forth. Practically the entire market in Scarlet and Violet is sort of experiencing this huge boom, even some Sword and Shield and so forth. I wanted to show y'all that, there are still things that you can get, particularly for Pokemon you love, for older generations and so forth. While everyone is sort of distracted right now with modern, like absolute modern, semi-modern and vintage are still out there. And I'm personally collecting certain cards that I really love for my collection that I think are a great value. And so I want to kind of walk you all through the process that I take when I'm purchasing cards. So starting up with the Celebi X and Y promo. This is one of those promos that you got in those mythical collection boxes. Actually, I'll bring it up right now. So as we see right here, we have the Celebi mythical collection box, and this product is of generation, so it was the 20th anniversary. If we take a look at the most recent sales for this product, we see that it's like there's very few sales of it to begin with, but 100, 146, 100, 144, so about like 121, 118. And so this basically comes with 2 generation packs and this Celebi promo as well as a pin. What is really crazy is that this absolutely stunning artwork and pretty much an illustration rare, really. It's just an older illustration rare before they were really called that, before they were made distinct. It's 1193. It's such a great card. 1196, sorry, and absolutely beautiful artwork. A mythical Pokemon. Celebi is the sort of protector of the forest, and it has this ability to heal sort of trees and plant life and so forth. And so it's got a huge part in the Zoroark movie, and so forth. So it does have a big place in the anime overall. It has a big place in Pokemon overall. You might have seen these insane Celebi alternate art from Fusion Strike, which is doing really well right now. And so for this card to be $11, it's just so undervalued, especially with illustration rares blasting to the moon. And honestly, I feel like this artwork definitely trumps some of the ones that are going crazy right now. And so, there are actually a bunch of these sort of cards out there from X and Y and so forth that are really beautiful, really low value. Another example, for instance, is Legendary Treasures, the Meloetta, the Shaman, so forth, from the Radiant collection. So those are some other cards that are really great, aren't really being picked up. I personally have a decent number of those, so I've kind of moved away from looking at those cards. I don't really like having too many multiples of cards, to be honest, because I kind of treat it in 2 ways. I choose to invest more so in sealed, and then when I come to singles, I choose my cards based off of both a perspective on investing and collecting, especially because singles are really volatile comparatively. I always want to try and get the cards low, and I want to sort of get cards I really like. So in the worst case, if they drop, I'm okay with it because I have some stunning artworks in my collection and cards I really love. And so most of the time when you get them low, you're not experiencing huge downside, but the upside is tremendous if they do go up. And on the other hand, you also have sort of a card that's particularly wonderful and sort of you have a particular motivation to get. Next up is the Shining Ho-Oh, and this particularly, I thought it was a great time to grab it right now, especially as there's a chance, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, obviously, no one can predict it, but with the Heatwave Arena set coming out with Ho-Oh as the poster Pokemon for it, and we've already seen the sort of alternate art for that particular set, shiny Ho and shinies, for all of you who don't know, are just variants of the Pokemon. So for instance, when you're playing the video games for Pokemon, they have like a point not 1% or something like that chance of appearing for variation. So as you see, Ho usually has the red and orange and green colors. Here we have the sort of yellow, rust-like brownish orange, and then we have the white. Really one of the best shinies out there, Generation 2 Legendary. What's really crazy about this card is the Ho itself is actually textured, and the rest of the card is just like a regular artwork, and it pairs together so well. I just sat there like just admiring the artwork. I loved it so much in its simplicity, but also its striking nature, and it's already been going up a decent amount for the past 3 months. It went from about $7 really, and has gone all the way up to $13 now. Definitely, I don't see the downside as being too high for this card and the upside being quite tremendous. Next up, we have the Mega Gengar, the shiny Mega Gengar, really. Regular Gengar shiny is pretty bad. It's pretty much just some variant of purple or a bit of a bluish purple instead of like striking mauve purple. But the shiny Mega turns from purple to white, and it's really distinct. It's very eye-catching and beautiful, and we also see it in one of the Pokemon movies. I think it was the Volcanion movie. Personally, I absolutely adore Mega cards. I collect them all the time. And this is a particular card that was missing from my collection, and I got it in a played condition. And the reason I did that instead of seeking out the near mint, which, for $68, this card has gone up quite a bit in the past year, going from 38 all the way to 68. And for me, I didn't really want to get it for $68. I just wanted one for my binder. Got one for a pretty good deal, even in terms of played. Played cards do still go up, and they're still sellable and such. It's just not worth grading those. And so for me, it was just more so put it in the binder, adds to my Mega collection. Looks great. Pretty much the end of the story for that. Gengar being one of the most popular Pokemon out there. I do have the other Mega Gengar, so the one that's actually purple, the one from Phantom Forces. Naturally I wanted to have this one as well. We also have the Charizard EX Sun and Moon promo, and this is a Detective Pikachu promo. For all of you who don't know, there's a movie called Detective Pikachu. Sort of takes this realistic edge to Pokemon. Honestly, generally I don't really like the Charizard too. It's not bad, honestly, compared to some of the other ones which were like questionable artworks. But personally, I have a Charizard binder, so I have a lot of Charizard cards I collect, and so naturally I wanted to add such a distinct and unique card into my binder, and it looks really, really nice placed in between some of the other GXs and EXs. This card has actually dropped pretty nicely from sort of a $17 high all the way down to $13. I just thought it was about the right time to grab this card. Next up, we have Skarmory Neo Genesis. So personally, I am currently collecting Neo Genesis holos. Not first edition. I just really love the art style of Neo Genesis cards, and so I picked up this Skarmory as part of that. One thing I want to say about this is I don't really chase down cards when I'm collecting cards for a set. So I'm only doing holos, for instance. I don't want to get all the common cards and so forth. I just want to do the holos for Neo Genesis. And so I'm gradually collecting the cards as I come across them, and I come across conditions that work for me and prices that work for me. I grab them, and they look sensational as a collection, and so pick this up naturally as part of that sort of decision to collect these cards. So I just want to say, if y'all are doing master sets and so forth, you don't have to rush and race for it, especially if they are older sets. Don't go and try and buy them all at once. It's okay to take your time and get the cards and get the conditions you really like, because oftentimes these are usually done for personal joy, and so often I have nice memories attached to getting cards for particular collections. For instance, for my unlimited collection, I literally remember every single card I acquired, and almost all of them were at different locations at different times and different places, and so it's a really nice journey that you undergo to collect entire sets. In my case, when I do vintage, I usually stick to the holos because it's just the main part of the set that I really like. And so if y'all are looking for an idea on how to collect sort of older things, that's a suggestion that you could take if you are interested. Regardless, Skarmory, really nice artwork and so simple. A lot of the Neo cards, they're just sort of like a Pokemon planted in an interesting background, but the way that the holos work, it really does complement the artwork. Next up, we have Lucario from Ultra Prism. This is the pre-release staff card. So for anyone who doesn't know, pre-release cards are basically in the build and battle deck, a bunch of cards plus 4 packs inside, and the card at the very front of that deck is a pre-release promo. There are 4, and you can get one of them in that deck. In this case, we have Lucario from Ultra Prism, and it would have had 3 other cards that come along with it. It would have been potential pulls. And so as we see, this is a particular staff variant, which makes it much rarer, and Lucario is actually my favorite Pokemon of all time. I absolutely love it, and it's been really the constant for me for a long time. It's always been my favorite, really. But that's the reason why I wanted to pick up this card. I got it for a really, really great deal, well below market value, so it just made sense for me personally to get this card. It's in really good shape as well. Maybe I'll grade it at some point, I don't know, we'll see. But for now, I just really wanted to have the raw card. It was 71, now it's 77. It's still decent, it's still gone up at least. But staff cards are always sort of very niche collectibles, and this is actually my first staff card, so I don't really collect staff cards per se, but because it was Lucario, I decided, it was the right card to get this time. Next, we have this Charizard from X and Y. So this is one of the regular Charizard EXs, not like one of the big hits, but as part of my sort of venture to collect all of the X and Y Charizard, because that was my main generation, that was the generation I collected really it became a bigger hobby for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so I pulled a bunch of the evolutions Charizards, but I never really managed to pull substantial. Like I pulled one from Flashfire, I recall, but it wasn't the big one. I've been over the past year and a half collecting various Charizards from X and Y. I still have a few more to go, but as part of that, I decided to grab this Charizard right here. The only Charizards I'm not getting are the sort of gold border secret rare ones, because to me, it's really not worth it. It's just the gold border and barely even detectable, honestly, for most. And they go for way, way more than the non-secret rare version. And so I've been collecting everything except for those. Near mint, it's been doing pretty decently, going up for 9% over the past 3 months. Take a look at the past year, though, it's actually been kind of climbing back up from a dip. It was going for $17, dropped all the way down to 15, but it's not too substantial that I was that concerned about getting it during this sort of rise back up. One thing about this card is how the fire kind of that Charizard is using flamethrower, I suppose, is really like swirling around the entire card, and it sort of bleeds into the main center of the text. Second last card is the Shining Rayquaza from Shining Legends. This is a card I really, really love. I don't really have anything from Shining Legends particularly. As I said, a few times I saw the booster packs, and generally I have, most Sun and Moon booster packs sort of set aside just like to have art sets and so forth. But for Shining Legends, I never did it for some reason. But for me personally, this is my favorite card from the set, the Shining Rayquaza. And we also have the Shining Rayquaza from sort of the show, and that's really the main sort of poster Pokemon for Pokemon Horizon. And you know what? There's a genuine chance that there could be a Shining Rayquaza that comes up at some point in Scarlet and Violet, which would be nuts. Would probably drive up the prices of a lot of Shiny Rayquaza. This is a card that I've been keeping an eye on for a while and I've been wanting to get. Got a really nice copy of it, and so for me it was just like, I'd rather get it now. I've been wanting it anyway, and so rather get it now than, for instance, that Shiny Rayquaza at some point comes along in Scarlet Violet and see this card jump up in price. Shiny Ho-Oh was a promo, but this is actual card in the set, so the texture looks really great, super distinct, and very colorful actually in the background. And finally we have the Mew EX, and before I even start talking about this, there is no way that the picture right here captures the essence of how wonderful this artwork is, particularly because of the texture. Oh my goodness, I was not expecting this when I picked up this card. It was so off the charts. There is so much happening in this card, and it's just a full art. I mean, it's not an alternate art or anything like that, because X and Y didn't have alt art, except for those sort of gold bordered ones like the Gyarados or Alakazam, for instance. But really, this is just one of my favorite full arts, alongside that Charizard from Flashfire, because of how colorful it is, the galaxy pattern in the background. And currently, if we see the past year, we see that it's actually surpassed its previous high. It was going for 38, came down all the way to 36, and then went back to 39. Obviously, we don't see too much of a big difference in this price. 8% growth overall in the past year, but I think seeing that artwork, y'all will probably agree with me that this is just such a stunning artwork. And with Mew sort of going crazy all across the board, I really wanted to pick up one that is a bit different, a bit unique, and a bit older, from a generation that really speaks to me for a multitude of reasons. Not only because that was one of the major eras where I collected Pokemon, but it was also a generation where the anime was definitely the best, and we had some sensational games such as Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, so fantastic 3DS games. Genuinely think X and Y is one of the best generations, and very underrated, undervalued. A lot of the cards were from X and Y, some of them from Sun and Moon, the Skarmory aside. And so I just wanted to show y'all in this video basically like what I was collecting, kind of give you insight into how you can collect still without sort of breaking the bank. As you saw, none of those cards were over $100, right? This month I kept it to more so cards that were really, really accessible for a lot of people. The question about getting the perfect copy is obviously, there. For instance, this Mew, I got a LP version because just the back was a little bit, like it had a few white ticks here and there, but the front was just absolutely beautiful. Again, binder card. Some of the, like the Shiny Rayquaza, Lucario, and so forth, those are grade worthy, if I ever choose to down the line. You don't even have to get near mints of some of these cards. I got, for instance, at some point, one of the generations evolutions, I think it was Flareon, for, I don't know, it's like $20. And as you might know, that card has done really, really well, and so naturally the LP version has done really well too. It's not that it's not sellable or that it's sort of not growing either. you don't always have to get the NM. It's better to get the NM, but when it's for personal joy as well. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Maybe you learned something or got an idea on how to sort of switch up your collecting, or at least, insight into how others do it. I try to keep things a little different. I don't necessarily like follow what everyone will do in terms of collecting. Like a lot of YouTubers will go out and buy maybe 10 or 15 or more copies of a certain card they think is going to appreciate in value. I try and diversify my investments and get different cards for singles, and then for seals I take a completely different approach. So yeah, that'll do for today. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.